Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2023 Q1 State of the Market. And joining me today is Michael Petrovelli, and we will also have a guest speaker, Margaret Valdez, introducing Michael. Michael Petrovelli is Costar's Director of Analytics for Nevada and Utah, and he has nearly a decade of experience in the commercial real estate industry. He has covered more than 50 markets during his tenure at the company, including Las Vegas, Salt Lake City, Phoenix, Denver, and San Francisco Bay Area. We here in Las Vegas are absolutely thrilled to have Michael as part of our team. We also have a very special treat this morning with our guest speaker, Margaret Valdez. Margaret began a professional career in retail for a major company in Denver, Colorado. From a department manager in 1976 to an assistant buyer in 1986. She joined Con-Am Management in 1986 as a leasing agent to property manager of 272 unit community. She transferred to Las Vegas in 1989 to manage 218 to 544 units, which included new construction lease up. In 1994, she began working for Realty Management, Inc. as a property manager. She advanced to regional supervisor with Realty Management. In 1994, and many of you may remember this time, I certainly do, the condo conversion process began, and she helped with minor and extensive rehab work from exterior property improvements to renovation of apartment homes, worked with the HOA associations and transferring condominiums to homeowners. She joined Westcore Management Group in June of 2007 as Vice President of Operations, and then in 2019 became the Chief Operating Officer. So big welcome to Margaret. I've known Margaret, I believe, for most of the time she's been here in Las Vegas, and we're really glad to have her as our guest speaker today.
I will go ahead and start our conversation with Margaret Valdez of Westcorp, and she is a seasoned vet. She has seen all the cycles here. She's been through multiple cycles in Las Vegas, and is still going strong. And I think that she is going to be a really valuable voice for us all to hear. Perfect. Thanks for joining us, Margaret. First, I just wanted to see if you could give us a little more information on just your background, your portfolio mix, and just overall experience in the industry.
Sure. As Deborah said, I came from a retail out of college. So, this experience going into this industry, definitely still people oriented. So I really enjoyed it. And to be honest with you, my very first leasing job was a lease up. So that was right out the gate of this career. And it was in a different market, but that's probably what started some of the ongoing lease ups that I did in my career between 2-3 different management companies I've worked for. And now we've evolved to the point that our company does a lot of consulting work for new developers. Everybody that's getting into that industry of building and developing, they have the basics, but at the end of the day, they don't have the details of what it takes to open a brand new project. And it has a lot to do with what the prospect wants in terms of finishes, what is, compared to everyone else in town. You could have similar finishes, but what's going to make you the difference between one and the other. So that, kind of made our new development ownership look at, what we're competing with as a whole in Las Vegas. And as you said, the market has changed a little bit since the pandemic period of time. So it is definitely one of those industries you really have to look at it by submarket and not just by Las Vegas in general.
Absolutely. And what is your view of the market in 2023? Just overall sentiment, positive, negative, neutral, and then what are some trends that you are looking at, or what's keeping you up at night heading into 2023?
Well, at this point, when we started doing budgeting for 2023, we really were conservative, knowing the fact that we were coming out of a pandemic of now evictions happening. So there was going to be more vacancy just on that alone, aside from new construction happening in town. So, that was one of the things that we really were conservative. We didn't expect any big growth in terms of rental rates this 2023. But at the end of the day, to an owner, that's, they don't want to hear that they're not going to make more money. So again, we're conservative, but we still probably put in a 3% increase in those budgets. Will we achieve that in the timing that we'd like to do? Because we usually do those in our leasing season months. But currently, the first quarter, we can already see that the Class A properties are hurting the most in terms of occupancy. We're probably in West Corp's portfolio, most of our communities are in that Class A category. They're hovering the 90, 92 mark. And Class B and C's are doing better. They're probably only a 5% vacancy, but at the end of the day, we're not doing any large increases either. So we're kind of staying neutral right now just to keep through this first quarter that we're going through.
And in terms of lease up trends at new developments, because I know that's kind of your specialty, what are you seeing lease up trends, 2020 versus 21 and 22 and then into this year?
So in 2021, in terms of lease ups, we kind of have a business model for it. We traditionally offer an incentive to move into new communities. My thought was in 2021, I should be able to open a brand new property and not have to do any concessions to get it leased up, just because of the occupancy. But the customer is a little, more savvy to what they can get. So at that point, we had to shift gears and go, okay, go back to what we know best and offer that incentive to move into those communities. We still leased up, 300 plus units in 10, 11 months. But that's for the fact that you went back to, what your business model was. In 2022, at the tail end, I had another opening of a new lease up. That one, it was a little slower. So couple reasons why. Production was slower for the fact that the general contractors subs aren't appearing to work. And so here we are waiting for product to be delivered. And we're used to being ahead of construction. So we're used to being leased up so that they have to catch up with us. But at this point, we weren't in that position in the fourth quarter. So that was one of the factors that probably slowed down my lease up. For 2023, it's starting to take off again. But the good news, it's consistent. So the leasing is consistent. We're not worrying about if we're going to achieve our goal eventually to lease up within a year. But at the end of the day, the previous lease ups definitely took off very quickly. And so I think that was our first concern on this one, is that can I achieve it fast as I've always achieved it?
Right. And, you've been able to do it up, down, up markets, down markets, with the downward pressure that we're seeing on rents right now. What do you think is going to separate the strong operators from the weak?
At the end of the day, every product has their own specialty of what their community has to offer. I think that the customer that's coming in still wants all the value, still wants all the upgrades and contemporary looks in the apartment. But at the end of the day, their eyes are bigger than their wallet. So once they get moved in, there's times where they have to readjust because they're not going to give up, the high-end cars that they drive. They want to still have all the things they want to do in their personal life and not give that up. So that's been the challenge, to retain those communities, because of the fact that when they got in, they wanted all the bells and whistles, and then now they're checking their account and it's starting to dwindle because the rate of income hasn't been growing at the rate of our rental rates have been growing. I think that's when people start to readjust, and that's why the B and C's are doing better right now. So the only thing I can see that that you can achieve what you need to do is still bring in the customer to your group that's doing the best they could do. Everybody's got a brand new product out there. So I always say the reason why they rent is the person behind the desk. So if they like you, they like the way you treat them and you're giving them the attention that they need, they're going to rent with you before they rent next door.
Absolutely. I can tell you that from firsthand experience back in my renting days. Kind of going back to, again, the price sensitive renters, what are you seeing in 1-bed versus 2-bed units?
So that's currently what's kind of the challenge of its cycles in my career anyway. 1s and 2s cycle throughout a year. Currently, we're having people pair up. So the 2 bedrooms are on the forefront of being leased first before a 1-bedroom, for the fact that if it's a couple, then that's a little different. But if it's 2 roommates, they can afford the A+ property that they couldn't afford by themselves. So that's where we see the biggest occupancy number is in. 3 bedrooms in the fourth quarter to the first quarter of 2023 have been the weakest I've seen in years. And those are the factors of there are still people buying homes. And believe it or not, I wouldn't know what their house payment is in terms of the interest rate, but there's some incentives, probably, new builders are offering incentives, or it's a first-time home buyer, they would have an incentive to get in. So that still seems to be one of the factors, which I think by this time of the year, you wouldn't think so. But the 2 bedrooms are the strongest currently.
Right. Yeah. It seems like that's where the value is for a lot of renters. Again, in an inflationary environment. Again, you've seen multiple cycles, especially in Las Vegas, which is a unique animal. Since it's the first one to be impacted by a downturn, and typically slower to recover, at least on the labor market and general economy. But how will this current down market compare and contrast with previous cycles that you've seen?
Previous cycles, it was more of slashing the rental rates to gain occupancy. That's the hardest thing currently for an owner to accept, because they achieved that 21% increase in 2021. It's really hard for them to go back because of the value of their community. So that, I think, is the hardest challenge between the 2 so-called recessions. Back in 2009 through 11, owners were okay to lower rates to get their occupancy to get the income in. But this cycle, they're really pushing back. But at the end of the day, you still have to manage it by unit type, by how old is the unit been sitting on the market vacant. So you can only do that portion of it without affecting rental rates. But again, we're coming back into that concession market again. So that is, it's not usually across the board, but as I see market surveys come through, more and more communities are offering a concession. So that's the answer currently without touching the rental rate.
Yeah, we're seeing the same data. I have a concession slide. I had to cut it just for time. But if you want to see that, come to the Nevada Apartment Association Market Trends event on March 10th. I'll be there presenting that. But yeah, we're seeing concessions rise considerably. I think last time I checked, it was almost 20% of properties are offering some sort of concession. So yeah, it's one way to get around. Instead of lowering face rents, just offering some type of concession, dangle the carrot out there for renters, get a sweet deal up front. What threshold needs to be reached before we see rents correct further? Now, we had the severe downside scenario where we get to 15% vacancy. Is that kind of the number that would really start to change things in terms of owners dropping rents?
In terms of owners that West Corp services, I would say, they're okay in the 90% mark, but I think if you get to 88 to 85% occupancy, that's probably the trigger. where they're going to listen to more of that rental rate reduction. Currently, like I stated, they're not willing to do that quite yet because they're hopeful. And of course, they read enough information out there. Most of my owners are out of state. So they read a lot of different advertisements in the market of apartments. So they read those type of publications and they have a hard time accepting the true reality of what's really happening.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, especially with the supply picture. I wonder how much that will impact things going forward, and then if these projects will actually complete on time, that would put a lot of pressure on the market. But just based on recent trends, we've seen a lot of these timelines get pushed out in construction projects, so maybe not quite as much supply pressure as we're projecting in the near term. Are you seeing any impacts from interest rates? I know this is not, primarily kind of information that you might be privy to, but could you just speak about I guess your portfolio in particular? Is there any short-term floating debt holders out there that are being impacted?
Most of my owners are pretty fortunate that they had the crystal ball to look at making sure that their financing was in place in the good times. Okay. So I probably only had one property that had the adjustable rate debt, and that's probably the only one that that particular owner is looking to do something for that particular their property. But the rest of the communities, they've been enjoying the excess distributions. And so they've, at least they have enough cushion that they can ride out this next portion that we're going to go through, even though I think 2023 second half will be better than the first half, especially when we get into the full leasing season. I think that'll help keep our occupancy up, and we won't maybe have to, do as much drastic rental rate changing. But that's hard to tell for the fact that I don't know what the timing is, even though now after Super Bowl Sunday, things start to change. People are starting to look again. We're getting people from out of state coming to the rent here, believe it or not. Like, those days have kind of not been prevalent, but now we're starting to see people coming in with new jobs moving into Las Vegas.